Heyo everybody, Haku here, and welcome to my Youjo Senki sort of like mid-season discussion, my 6.5 discussion. The 6.5 episode is their recap. The 6.5 discussion is my, not really recap, I'm just gonna kind of talk about the series, my thoughts on it a bit. I didn't actually watch the recap episode yet, I haven't had enough time, but I did go through and read comments on it just to see if there was any specific new scenes or anything, but it seems like it was just recap using old scenes and everything. It probably had a voiceover by Tanya. I figure what I'm thinking it is, it's probably just scenes we've already seen for the recap, and then it's voiced over telling what happened by somebody's voice actress, probably Tanya's. So I will go watch it, and if there are any new scenes, I'll talk about them when I review episode 7. But as for right now, I didn't have time to watch that, and I just want to give a discussion of the series so far. First thing I wanted to say, though, about the series is, you guys, if you weren't recommending it, I wouldn't have even picked it up. And I didn't think the first episode was good. I still think the first episode, I think it would have been fine if it was in a better order, but it feels, coming first in the series, it feels like the episodes were just out of order. It should have been the third, or second episode, rather. So, yeah, it's just, I'm glad I stuck with it, though, because I'm certainly liking it a lot more. I think it's above average for anime as a whole, and it's just enjoyable week to week. For me, though, I do think the recap at 6 episodes in wasn't super necessary. There's a lot of complicated stuff, a lot of characters that pretty much nobody's going to remember at this point because we were just shown them in like one episode, given their name, and then they haven't been important again. Other than a few characters, most of them have not been very important. But I do certainly understand why they did the recap. I'm being told it was, I have read that it was because of issues when it came to production and everything, which is completely understandable because this, I believe, I may be wrong here, but I believe it is, the studio is Nut, and it is Nut's first anime since splitting from Madhouse. Nothing like a good Nut anime. I think aside from that first out of order episode, everything was fine, and I understand why they had to take a recap. Just because it's their first time doing a full season anime, I believe, and sometimes things happen. So I think things have been pretty good so far. It to me, though, is certainly not a bad anime, but there are so many people I see always commenting, and it's a very popular anime this season. So many people saying, oh, it is the best anime this season by far, or just it's the best anime this season. And I'm like, if it's the only anime you're watching this season, maybe, or if you're watching something crappy other than this, maybe. But no, I think it's definitely good. It's definitely not bad, but it is far from me the best of this season. One thing I will say about the show, and this is going to be a mostly positive video, but you got to have a balance with the positives and negatives. The positives, I really like it. I think it's fun to watch week to week. I think it has a really good production quality. The animation and the soundtrack is solid. I really like the soundtrack so far. I think the voice acting, I've liked that as well. At least Tanya's. I really like Tanya's voice acting. The rest are pretty good too. Victoria's voice is pretty click. I'm cool with that. So, one thing I will say on the negative side of things, though, actually, hell, not even negative. This is not a negative. It is your basic, common, little girls do insert thing here. And the insert thing here for this show happens to be Magic World War I. Little girls do Magic World War I. So that's a basic formula we see with a lot of things, but it works. It's a formula that has led to a lot of crappy shows where the show is like, you can watch it, but you cannot watch it. It's basically cute girls do blank. But there are some shows that you could boil down to cute girls do blank that are very good. Girls in Panzer has a great rating overall, and I really liked Girls in Panzer, and it was basically cute girls do tank fighting. And it was a really good show. I as well liked Sky Girls. It doesn't have as big of a following. It's a very obscure one, but most of the ratings of it are pretty good, and I really enjoyed it, and it was basically cute girls fight mecha monster things. So, yeah, it's not a negative, it's just I can say it does boil down to that one thing. One of the negative things I can say though, and again it's not even a totally negative thing, is the story overall, and I've heard that it's actually a good improvement for the light novel. A lot of the people I've seen that have read the light novels have either said the light novels admittedly aren't that good, I like them but they're not that good, which again, people always think you have to think something is good to enjoy it. No, you can enjoy it, think something is fun, think something is nice and enjoyable, and admit, okay, it's crap, but I like it anyway. Or you can say things are really good, but they're just not my style, I don't really like them. So for this, I think the writing is a bit subpar at times, or maybe at least around average. It is mediocre-ish. It is mediocre to average at best, writing. But that doesn't mean it necessarily isn't enjoyable. And enjoyability is a big part of entertainment. So while I think the writing isn't that great, I still think overall as an anime it's a little above average, and I still like it, though it is certainly not the best this season. Now, what I want to do lastly is there are 4 criteria that I want to give this a score on out of 10, just at the mid-season and what I think of it so far. And I actually did those scores as well for the 3 other anime, not counting One Piece, the 3 other anime that I'm covering this season so far after 6 episodes. So this is going to evolve from more than a Youjo Senki discussion. It's going to be centered around Youjo Senki, but also comparing it to some of those 3 other anime I've seen. I was hoping for this to be a shorter video, but I'm going to put this in here as well. So as for comedy, and this isn't a comedy, so of course it's not going to be a high score in this criteria. For comedy, I will give it a 4 out of 10. Even though it's not a comedy, there are some funny moments. I like when Tanya did the cute little girl voice before attacking the place. The visas scene is funny. And there have been a lot of funny, cute scenes with Tanya, so I would definitely say 4 out of 10 for comedy is pretty good for something that isn't even a comedy. Then for the other 3 anime I've seen this season, comparing that to this, Little Witch Academia isn't a comedy either, but I'd say it does comedy quite better. It has more, even though it's not necessarily a comedy, it does have more of a comedic element than Youjo Senki, so I'd give it around a 7 out of 10. Demi-chan wa Kataretai is a comedy. It's a lot of other things as well, but it is a comedy, and it does its comedy very well, and I'd give it actually 9.5 out of 10. I really find it funny almost every episode. And then Maid Dragon, 10 out of 10 for comedy, completely hilarious, but it focuses a lot on comedy, so that's understandable. When it comes to story and character development for Youjo Senki, I'd give it a 6.5 out of 10. I'd say Tanya has pretty good character development. The story overall, it gets needlessly complex at times, but I think it's reined in enough to where it's enjoyable, it's followable, and it's just something you can watch week to week and have a lot of fun with. So I do think the story and character development, 6.5 out of 10. I would give it that low just because of sometimes it does get needlessly complex, and other than that, I feel like we have character development a good bit for Tanya, and everybody else is just sort of around Tanya. They don't have very much development other than the one character. Comparing that to other anime I'm watching this season, I would give Little Witch Academia an 8. There was one episode I didn't like very much, but there was great character development in that episode, and I think the story overall for Little Witch Academia hasn't been connected enough for my taste from episode to episode, but there's been good character work there, so I think I'm willing to give it 8 out of 10 for that. Demi-chan wa Kataretai has got, it's more episodic really, but it's got very, very solid character work, and I'd give it 8.5 just because it has really solid character work. And then Maid Dragon again. Oh gosh, this is just going to sound like I'm sucking the show's dick. But I'd give it 10 out of 10 for character development and story, because the character development, especially this episode with Maid Dragon, it has been strong. It has done comedy so well, but then also had these nice character-driven scenes that have been really beautiful. The third category that I will judge all these by would be production quality, how good the animation is, how nice the soundtrack is to listen to, and for that I'd probably give Youjo Senki its highest score. It has nice animation. The first the first episode I thought it was a little off. Sometimes the character designs, I'm like, okay, maybe they could have reworked their character designs to be a little bit different, but for the most part I really like the art and animation. It's pretty smooth. The explosion effects they use sometimes, I feel like it almost looks cut in. That's the only thing I don't like with what Nut is doing with Youjo Senki, but production quality 8 out of 10. It's really nice to look at, and the biggest part for me, soundtrack. Its soundtrack is really good. I love the theme they use when Tanya's fighting a lot of the time. So yeah, I would say, especially because of the OST, but also because the animation is nice, I'd give it 8 out of 10. Now, Little Witch Academia, again, would beat it, though, with 9.5 out of 10, just because Little Witch Academia's production quality, with being from Trigger, it doesn't get a perfect score from me, because there are times where I'm like, okay, they do something a bit weird, but for the most part, the animation is super, super fluid. It takes a lot of chances, does a lot of unique stuff, and it's really good because of that. Demi-chan wa Kataritai I'd put lower than Youjo Senki. Its animation and music is actually pretty dang good. I'd give it 7.5. It's pretty good. It just, to me, it doesn't stand up quite as high as Youjo Senki's. Maid Dragon, again, giving it 10 out of 10 when it comes to this, because it is beautiful. The animation, the character design is better than any other that I've watched this season, and one of my more favorite overall already. I like what they're doing with the character design, and the fluidity of motion in Maid Dragon is so good. They are so good at animating motion. So 10 out of 10 for that, and the soundtrack is my favorite this season. The backing tracks to scenes can be sad and beautiful and almost make you want to tear up, or they can just be this quirky, bouncy tune for the comedy scenes, and their opening and ending theme are certainly my favorite this season. Then, my final category I'll talk about the anime with are sexy waifus. Sexy waifus for Youjo Senki, Tanya, pretty click, Nazi lolly. And Victoria's pretty nice as well, but they're pretty much the only female characters here, and some of the only important characters overall, so 5 out of 10, because just from those two characters they deserve 5 out of 10, but that's pretty much all they got. Little Witch Academia, I'll give 9 out of 10. They got some pretty nice little witches going on there. Demi-chan wa Kataritai, 7.5 out of 10. There's a small cast with some very good characters that I really think are great waifus. Hikari, best girl. But other than that, there's just a small cast, and not all of them are as good of waifus. And then for Maid Dragon, 11 out of 10. Better than the perfect score I've given it in every other category. Just because, like I said, the character design is amazing, and I'm a huge fan of universe design and character design. That's another thing I didn't really give it a score on, but for universe design, probably like a 9 or 10 out of 10 for Youjo Senki. Like, Youjo Senki has a really awesome universe that I really like. But character design's another huge thing for me that plays a part into how much I love something. Youjo Senki's character design, it has good character designs like Tanya, Victoria, and then it has some more boring ones like Eric and pretty much everybody else who just looks like a bland, generic background character. I talked about it a lot in my first episode review. So overall, at the midpoint of the seasons, I'll save Youjo Senki for last. At the midpoint of the season, I would say Maid Dragon is a 10 out of 10 anime. It is worthy of that score thus far. Demi-chan wa Kataritai is an 8.5. It's very, very funny. Has some good character development. But it is just your school slice of life, comedy, development, drama sort of thing. Little Witch Academia, I'd give an 8 out of 10 because I thought it was going to be my favorite this season. The first episode was incredible. There was one episode I didn't like, and other than that, it has had very good production quality and character design, but the stories from episode to episode have been a little bit disappointing. And then overall at the midway of the season, I would give Youjo Senki a 6.5 out of 10 because it's certainly above average, but the animation isn't always steady, even though I really like it. The soundtrack is really good. The character designs, there's like 2 good ones, and then everybody else is kind of eh. They don't look like they had a ton put into their design. but hopefully we can get some more good ones in the future for the show. We're only halfway in. And the story overall has been pretty solid with a couple mistakes. So for the average score, like if I averaged all the scores I gave Youjo Senki together, it would be a little bit under a 6, but I'm going to give it a 6.5 just because I think it deserves to at least be the same score as the story quality score I gave it, because the story quality to me is the most important factor here. So yeah, this was way longer than I thought it would be, but I wanted to, like, I didn't want to just take a week off and not talk about Youjo Senki at all, since there are like a couple hundred of you that do watch this video every week. And I didn't really know how to make I wasn't going to do a review of a recap episode. So I just wanted to give you something, and I wanted to discuss the show with you a little bit, and I do hope you enjoyed and appreciated it. So like if you did like the video, comment down there, tell me what you thought of all my thoughts here, what you're thinking of the show so far, what you agree or disagree with me on. I'm interested to see what you're thinking thus far. Subscribe for more of all the anime I talked about here and more. Lots of stuff on the channel, of course. Just check it out if you want. Follow on Twitter if you want as well. I'll try to keep you updated there on stuff with the channel. Whatever, once again. Share the video if you want as well with other Youjo Senki fans, and that is it. So thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you all next time.